Suzuki presents the 1987 Team Suzuki Highlights.
One measure of success in any sport is making things happen. And in 1987, Team Suzuki riders did just that. In some of the most popular forms of the sport, Suzuki riders led the way. From the high-speed venues of the Superbike Championship Series to the demanding courses in the Championship Motocross and Supercross Series. Success where sheer speed is the determining factor on the drag strip was also in the realm of Suzuki-mounted competitors. And in quad racing, where four-wheeling is foremost, Suzuki riders were making things happen. 1987 marked the second season for the AMA Superbike Championship Series as the premier form of American road racing. Based on production model motorcycles, the series is made to order for Suzuki's GSXR 750. The 9-race series takes riders to some of the most famous racetracks in the U.S., beginning with Daytona International Speedway. In this year's 46th annual edition of the Daytona 200, Team Suzuki's Kevin Schwantz and Satoshi Tsujimoto teamed up as they had in 1986. Schwantz, second at Daytona in 1986, put on a display of riding skills in the first half of the 200-mile race that drew him well away from the competition. Late in the race, Schwantz's grip on the lead was even more secure. Then disaster in the form of a slower rider's mistake put a roadblock in Texan Schwantz's path. The ensuing accident ended Schwantz's flawless ride and his chances for victory in America's most prestigious road race. Tsujimoto led briefly in the closing laps, but opted for smoothness and consistency as the rigors of 200 demanding miles at high speed began to set in. The two-time Japanese Formula One national champion strategy earned him second place. Consistency and the ability to resist the urge to go faster than his game plan called for brought privateer Suzuki GSXR rider Doug Poland third place.
I can't believe it. It was, we ran the race that we wanted to run, and it went just like we wanted to go. I wanted to run consistent laps. We ran within 1 to 2 seconds every lap for 57 laps, and it worked out just perfectly, exactly the way we wanted.
In all, Suzuki GSXR riders earned 5 of the 10 finishing positions, more than any other make. During the span between Daytona and the next Superbike Series round, Schwantz and 9 other American riders journeyed to England for the Transatlantic Match Race Series. The traditional Easter weekend races were supposed to be a duel between the best American road racers and those from the United Kingdom. Instead, this year it boiled down to a heated rivalry between Americans Kevin Schwantz and Wayne Rainey. The riding was spirited and close by both throughout the 9-race match. In the end, Suzuki-mounted Schwantz with 4 individual wins emerged as the top series scorer for the victorious American team. Once the Superbike Series resumed, the competition was just as fierce between Schwantz and arch-rival Wayne Rainey. But a new Schwantz was emerging.
The main thing is just I've started concentrating a lot more and riding a lot smoother this year. Last year was my first year, and I felt like I really had something to prove, and I don't guess I did. This year's seemed to have been a lot better for me.
It got better still. At the Loudon Round, Schwantz of Houston, Texas, celebrated his 23rd birthday in fine style. America's newest road racing star dominated the weekend's racing to pick up his and the Suzuki GSXR's first AMA Superbike Championship victory of the season. It was definitely showtime when Schwantz took his victory lap.
It's been a long time coming. We've been close the past 2 races and just hadn't been able to quite put it in there. And I think we showed what we can do right here. I'd like to thank everybody from Suzuki, Yoshimura. The guys at Yoshimura did a great job.
Schwantz and the Yoshimura crew continued to show what they could do as the potent team won 4 of the final 5 races in the Superbike Series. Kevin Schwantz and his Suzuki GSXR 750 were victorious at Road America, Mid-Ohio, Memphis International Raceway, and in the series-ending Sears Point Raceway round. Kevin Schwantz shocked the competition by taking 5 national AMA Superbike races. While Kevin Schwantz was proving just how strong he could be in only his second season, another GSXR rider was making his point in his first. Doug Poland was the series Rookie of the Year and consistently the highest finishing privateer rider.
Anybody that's beaten me has beaten me on another GSXR. And what that says for the motorcycle is that it's the most competitive bike on the market right now, and that's what everybody chooses to race with.
Endurance road racing, with its emphasis on races of 4 hours or longer, is also home territory for the GSXR. In fact, Suzuki wanted an even stronger identification with the sport and made the WERA Endurance Series title holders, Team Hammer, a member of Team Suzuki, with the corresponding name change.
Obviously, with a motorcycle that is as capable as the GSXR 1100, we didn't want to entrust it to just anyone to be called Team Suzuki.
As Team Hammer, the team won 3 national championship titles in the past 4 seasons. Now, as Team Suzuki, they're looking to add a 4th. Team Lockhart, the title holders in the AMA National Championship Endurance Series, has also enjoyed continued success with the GSXR.
Well, it certainly is a combination of the motorcycle itself, the maintenance of the motorcycle, the organization behind it, good sponsors, especially a good tuner and good riders. And that's one of the reasons Lockhart is so successful. It's a balanced team.
2 series, 2 winning teams. The common denominator? Suzuki's GSXR 1100. If road racing is the motorcycle equivalent of high-speed ballet, then Prostock drag racing is the gunfight at the OK Corral. And no other rider is as identified with the sport of Prostock drag racing as Terry Vance and his Suzuki. Vance is not only Prostock's premier winningest rider, he's also an ambassador to the sport and has been instrumental in the steady growth and recognition of the sport of Prostock drag racing.
Yeah, it definitely is going to get bigger. It's a very good sport. It's easy to understand. There's not much complication as far as understanding who's winning or who's losing, and it's very good for the sponsors. They get a lot of exposure, especially here at the NHRA races when you're looking at crowds of upward of 150,000 people. So it's a good exposure for the sport. It's good exposure for the sponsors, and I'm sure it's going to grow.
In a sport where quickest and fastest are the key words in a winning performance, Terry Vance has always been regarded as the rider to beat. The winning combination encompasses rider, tuner, and machinery in an organization, Vance and Hines Racing, which is totally dedicated to peak performance. In theory, all it takes to win is to beat your opponent to the timing lights at the end of the quarter mile. Ultimately, it's never that easy. Terry Vance, with hundreds of races to his credit, is a picture of calm before the final run takes place. Then he goes through the ritual known to every drag racer, the burnout to warm up the tires, a practice start to make sure everything is just right, and finally staging for the start. The race is finished in just over 8 seconds. The margin of victory, the blink of an eye. And in the Vance and Hines pits, there is one more celebration added to the ambassador's honor roll. In ATV racing, as in other forms of the sport, Suzuki leads the way. And one of the premier events of the year has to be the Supercross races hosted by Suzuki in the LA Coliseum as part of the 2-wheeled Supercross program. If you haven't raced on 4 wheels, then hang on, because we're going to give you a rider's eye view of all of the bumps, jumps, and whoops you can handle on a trip around the Coliseum's track. It's called a man-made dirt battleground of high-speed straightaways, frame-breaking whoop-to-doos, and humongous jumps. And the riders say it makes Death Valley look like a children's playground. Look out! Your stomach goes up above your eyes as you try to ride around this course and fly off the jumps. Look out! The racing gets spectacular around the high-speed dirt battleground built on the floor of the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum. Woo! Stadium-style racing makes hanging it out on a dirt track oval seem almost easy, unless you're piloting Suzuki's LT500 quad racer, better known as Quadzilla. These 500cc powered quads are a handful, especially when the track is only an 1/8 mile long. In the Suzuki Quad Racer Speedway Championship finale at Ascot South Bay Stadium, local hero Randy Griffith showed why he carries the #1 plate. For Griffith and the others, quad racing pays off. He took home a $1,500 paycheck for his victory. The American All-Terrain Vehicle Association's Championship Series is also a showcase for Team Suzuki riders. In this year's series, the 2 most prestigious titles in the pro ranks went to members of the yellow and blue team. When the final event of the year at Loretta Lynn's Dude Ranch was over, it was trophy presentation time. In the 250 class, Gary Denton of Chino, California was the title winner, with teammate Rodney Gentry finishing second in the series. Gentry's turn to collect his share of the glory came in the presentation of the 500cc crown. The Florida native now has captured 2 AATVA championships in just 2 years. For the members of Team Suzuki's motocross team, the 1987 season was filled with success. In the 250cc National Championship Motocross Series, Suzuki's 1-2 punch was led by the Hurricane, Bob Hanna, plus Team Suzuki newcomer and veteran of 7 seasons of championship competition, Johnny Osho O'Mara. The 2 provided the fans with plenty of showtime during the 6-race series. In his 11 seasons, Hanna has never failed to delight old fans and make new ones. At Southwick, Massachusetts, there was plenty of vintage Bob Hanna to be seen. After receiving rousing cheers from the fans in the opening moto, Hanna turned on the afterburners and charged into the lead in Moto 2. Skimming over the bumps and rocks of the New England track, Hanna was on a roll at one of his favorite tracks. The multi-time motocross national champion showed everyone his winning ways by dominating the moto all the way to the checkered flag. Meanwhile, teammate Johnny O'Mara was turning in an impressive showing. That gave the fans a double dose of Suzuki yellow and blue to root for. O'Mara may be Team Suzuki's newest member, but the two-time national champion isn't a stranger to tough competition. Erik Kehoe and teammate George Holland led the assault on the 125 National Championship Motocross title for Team Suzuki. The 12-race series kicked off at Gatorback Motocross Park in Gainesville, Florida, with Holland starting the season in a big way. The sand-based track proved a formidable opponent for the 125 riders, but Holland, number 7, and his potent Suzuki were more than up to the task. After finishing second in the first moto, Holland blasted his way to another second-place finish in Moto 2, and with it, the overall victory. Round 2 of the series in Hangtown was another doubleheader for Holland and Team Suzuki. George Holland's consistency on the track led into a pair of second-place finishes and his second straight national win. Number 8, Erik Kehoe, wasn't about to be denied his share of the spotlight. Kehoe led teammate Holland to the checkered flag in Moto 2 and joined him for the celebration afterward by making the results read Holland and Kehoe 1-2 overall. The pair continued their strong showings throughout the season. Kehoe was the man of the hour at Axton, Virginia's Lake Sugar Tree Motocross. Erik topped the results for the win while Holland took third overall. Not to be outdone, George Holland decided it was his turn to win at the very next round. 22-year-old Holland used a second-place finish in Moto 1 with a strong ride to victory in Moto 2 to pick up his third 125cc national win of the season at Binghamton, New York. Donnie Schmidt was also holding the Suzuki banner high. Schmidt, number 401, picked up his career in Anderson, South Carolina, finishing off the competition with a win in the final moto. But the highlight of Schmidt's season had to be the final series round. Racing in front of a partisan crowd at Minnesota's Spring Creek Motocross Park, home track favorite Schmidt didn't disappoint his fans. The native of Bloomington, Minnesota, won the first moto with a strong ride on the demanding track, and then came back in the second moto to put a lock on the victory with a second-place finish. But that wasn't all. George Holland and Erik Kehoe finished second and third overall, respectively, to give Team Suzuki a 1-2-3 sweep to end the series. The powerful trio led by Holland took 3 of the top 5 spots in the final championship standing. There was also plenty of action in the Regional Supercross Championship Series. The 125cc Eastern Region title fight centered on the T-men of Team Suzuki. In the 8-race series, the pair finished 1-2 no less than 5 times and won 7 of the 8 races. Ronnie Tishner, number 32 of Palm Harbor, Florida, won 3 of the Nationals. But when the final championship points were tallied, it was the 17-year-old winning his first crown by the margin of 1 point from rival Turpin. 18-year-old Turpin, the 1986 title holder, had 4 wins to his credit. Lancaster, California's Willie Surratt used consistent riding and top finishes to secure his 125 championship crown in the Western Regional Supercross Championship Series. The 19-year-old Californian clinched the title with a second-place finish in the final round of the series at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum. Success for Team Suzuki riders not only meant top showings in National Championship Series events, but in the Grand Prix arena as well. And topping that list of happenings was Erik Kehoe's brilliant overall victory in the 125cc U.S. Grand Prix. The rugged Steel City, USA track was the host for the GP, the first in the U.S. in nearly a decade. World Championship challengers filled the ranks of the European stars, while Suzuki's Kehoe led the ranks of the American challengers. These were the best riders in the world. Moto 1 saw Kehoe, number 28, mired in traffic in the early laps. The Granada Hills, California native quickly moved to change all that as he and his Suzuki RM125 climbed through the ranks in a steady charge toward the front, while the heat and humidity sapped the strength of the others. Kehoe continued his relentless charge and was in second place when the moto finished. Erik Kehoe's game plan for Moto 2 centered on making a good start, turning in some good fast laps and being consistent throughout the nearly 45-minute race. The easiest way to ensure overall victory was to win the moto, and Kehoe set out to do just that. World Championship title contender Davey Strebos led the field on the start, but that didn't last long as Kehoe, number 28, took the lead and never looked back. Kehoe quickly began to put the pressure on the rest of the field by setting a pace designed to run his weary challengers into the ground. His consistency and hard riding were rewarded with a moto win and the overall victory. Had Erik Kehoe done anything else in his career to top winning a Grand Prix?
No, as a matter of fact, I haven't. I feel really good. Suzuki's really putting out a big effort, making a good bike for me. I really like to thank Suzuki, and of course my good mechanic, Chris Lowitz, who's been behind me 100%.
Teamwork and 100% effort are also the key ingredients for winning in the World Championship Motocross for national teams, better known as the Motocross Des Nations. This year, for the first time in its 40-year history, the event was held in the United States. Representing the U.S. in its bid to make it 7 consecutive wins in a row, the most popular rider in American motocross today, Suzuki's Bob Hurricane Hanna, plus Rick Johnson of Team Honda and Kawasaki's Jeff Ward. Hanna, who had won the 1986 US 250 Grand Prix at Unadilla, was returning to his favorite track. However, in the Motocross Des Nations, he would be riding Suzuki's RM125, and the Hurricane hadn't raced a 125 in 5 long years. Would that fact and the muddy track conditions be a problem?
Well, the places I like on the track the best are from the start line to the finish line, and anywhere in between, I think I excel. This weekend, since I'm riding a 125, I think the downhills are going to be my main line, and the uphills are going to be, I'm just going to have to block.
Riders from 17 nations were on hand to contest the 3-moto format with each displacement class, 125, 250, and 500cc, racing 2 motos, but scored separately. The best 4 finishes by each team count in deciding the overall winner. Thus, the goal for each rider is to win his class. In the opening moto, Hanna and the rest of the 125 class raced with a 500cc division. The muddy track conditions made riding a 125 a nearly impossible task. But when the job is the toughest, that's when the Hurricane excels. Not only did Bob Hanna have to fight the power-robbing mud, but he also had to unleash a comeback charge after another rider had blocked his way early in the moto. And charge he did. Cheered on by his fans, Hanna slithered and slid his way to 4th in class. And that was just a warm-up for America's most popular motocross rider. In Moto 2, the Hurricane brewed up a storm worse than one which drenched the track. Hanna was the rider to watch right from the opening laps as he launched his RM into the class lead and 3rd overall. It was vintage Bob Hanna. The style, the determination, the unquenchable desire to win all melded together. Despite the power-robbing mud, Hanna and his RM125 kept up a relentless pace throughout the 30-minute moto, never relinquishing position and applying pressure to the riders in front. When the moto was over, Hanna had won the 125 class and finished an incredible 3rd overall. Before the celebration at the finish line was finished, everybody was chanting Hanna's name.
I've been beat before, but today I didn't want to get beat. You know, just because I don't want USA losing because of Bob Hanna. No way, buddy.
That 100% effort by Team Suzuki's Bob Hurricane Hanna was an important part of America's 7th straight Team Motocross World Championship title event. For Team Suzuki riders in whatever championship series they compete in, the determination to win is a key factor. In 1987, the combination of the premier riders in the sport, competing on the ultimate and technologically advanced machinery, wrote yet another chapter in Team Suzuki's success story.